Tommel stood in the line with other workers. They had just finished their 10-hour shift in the outer docks of the human colony station. Called Stoner each, his hands were covered in machine oil, and his boots were heavy with dust. He only wanted to eat, wash, and sleep. But something unusual was happening that day. A group of security guards stood near a large black box. The workers around Tommel whispered to each other. One of the guards stepped forward and called names from a list. "Tommel," he said. Tommel raised his hand, confused. "Step forward," the guard said. Tommel did not like surprises, especially not from guards. They were strict and cold. But he walked up to the front. The guard pressed a button on the box. It opened with a slow hiss. Inside stood a young female. Her skin was smooth and light blue. Her hair was silver like moonlight. She had thin arms, and her clothes were plain and worn. She lowered her head and did not speak. "This is your reward," the guard said. "A Zen cleaner. Do with her as you wish. You earned her." Tommel blinked. He had seen Zen before. They were an alien race who once lived in peaceful cities far away. But long ago, humans had fought them and won. Now, Zen were servants, most. Humans called them quiet things and used them for cleaning or lifting. No one asked what they felt. No one cared what they thought. Tommel looked at the girl. She looked no older than 20. Her eyes, wide and dark, looked at the floor. She did not speak or move. She seemed tired, like a bird without a sky. "Take her," the guard said. "She is trained. She will clean your room and tools. Do not expect talk from her. She knows her place." Tommel took a step back. "I didn't ask for a reward," he said. "You earned it." The guard replied, "That's an order." The others in line laughed and clapped. Some shouted rude jokes. Tommel said nothing. He looked at the girl again. She stood still, like a statue. No fear, no hope, just waiting. "Come with me," Tommel said softly. The girl followed him without a sound. She did not walk like a soldier or a slave. She walked like someone who had forgotten how to feel. They entered a small room in the worker block. It had one bed, one chair, a table, and a tiny wash station. Tools and wires were piled in corners. Tommel scratched his head. He had no idea what to do. The girl stood near the door. "You can sit," he said. She did not move. "I don't know your name," he added. She looked up, just for a second, then looked down again. Tommel sighed. He opened a storage box and pulled out a blanket. He placed it on the floor beside the wall. "You can sleep here if you want," he said. "I won't stop you." She sat down slowly and pulled her knees close. Tommel took a small bottle from the shelf. Inside was a living flower, the only one he had. It had four purple petals. He had grown it from an old seed, kept it alive for 2 years. He placed it near her on the floor. "This is for you," he said. She looked at the flower, then at him. Her lips moved, but no sound came. She touched the bottle lightly, as if afraid it would break. Tommel didn't ask questions. He washed his hands, ate a dry meal, then sat on the edge of his bed. The girl stayed quiet in her corner, but her eyes stayed on the flower. That night, Tommel could not sleep. The station lights outside blinked through the window. He turned on his side and saw the girl still sitting up, her eyes open. "You can sleep," he said. "It's safe here." She lay down slowly and turned away. It was the first time she had heard those words in many years. In the morning, Tommel woke to find his tools cleaned, his clothes folded, and his boots polished. The girl stood near the table, waiting. He thanked her. She looked surprised, then, not a dot later that day, Tommel gave her a fresh towel and some food. She hesitated but took it. She sat in the corner and ate quietly. Tommel noticed that she ate with care, as if every bite was a gift. As days passed, Tommel spoke to her more. He did not order her. He asked her. He thanked her. He smiled at her. The girl started to move more freely. She looked at things with curiosity. Once, she touched the flower and smiled. Just for a second. One evening, while fixing a broken sensor, Tommel asked, "Do you have a name?" The girl paused. Then, in a soft voice, she said, "Ina." Tommel looked up. "Ina?" he repeated. She nodded. Her eyes had a small light in them. Now from that day, he called her by her name. Ina cleaned and helped with tools, but also started asking questions. She pointed at machines and made soft sounds. Tamil began teaching her simple words. She listened carefully and tried to repeat. The other workers saw them and laughed behind their backs. Some called Tamil a fool. Some warned him not to trust his Zen. But he didn't care. He saw what they didn't. He saw a quiet mind waking up. He saw someone who had lost everything and still tried to stand. Tamil didn't treat Ina like a worker. He treated her like someone worth knowing, someone who deserved respect. He gave her kindness, not because he had to, but because it felt right. He didn't know it yet, but that small choice was about to change more than just their lives. It would shake the station and challenge everything people believed. And it all began with a girl no one wanted and a flower in a bottle. Ina started waking up early, before the station lights blinked into daytime. She would sweep the corners of Tamil's room, clean his tools, and fold his blanket. She did it quietly. Tamil never asked her to do it. She just did it with care. Tamil noticed the change. Her eyes were not as empty now. When she moved, there was a little more life in her steps. Sometimes she touched things gently, like she was remembering them. She still didn't talk much, but her silence was no longer cold. It felt calm. One day, Tamil returned from the docks early. The workers were sent back because his shipment got delayed. He entered the room and saw Ina sitting near the bottle with the flower. She was watching it closely. He sat down across from her. That flower has lasted longer than anything else I've grown, he said. Ina looked at him. It is strong, she said softly. Tamil smiled. Like you? She looked down and shook her head. Tamil stood and took another bottle from the shelf. This one was empty. He opened a box and pulled out dry soil. He poured it into the bottle and placed a small seed in it. You can grow your own, he said. This one is for you. Ina stared at it. Me. Yes, Tamil said. You are not just here to clean. You can make things too. Ina touched the seed. She smiled. It was small, but it reached her eyes. Tamil saw it and felt something warm inside his chest. He didn't understand why, but it felt right. Each day, Ina added drops of water to her bottle. She placed it near the light. She would sit beside it and whisper in her own language, words Tamil didn't understand. He didn't interrupt. He just watched. Sometimes he taught her human words. He pointed at tools and said their names. She repeated them slowly. She pointed at stars outside the window, and he told her their names too. They shared stories with hands and pictures, bit by bit. Her voice returned. Ina shared her food with him one night. It was a simple mix she made from station supplies, but the taste was new. Tamil ate it and nodded. This is good, he said. Ina smiled again. My mother made this, she said. Long ago. Tamil didn't ask more. He let her speak when she wanted. He listened. One evening, a group of workers came to his door. They were loud and laughing. You training your cleaner to cook now? One of them asked. Tamil stood in the doorway. She has a name, he said. It's Ina. The workers looked at each other. One of them smirked. You treating her like a guest now? Tamil didn't answer. He closed the door. Ina looked at him. It is fine, she said. I'm used to it. No, Tamil replied. You shouldn't be. Ina went quiet again. But that night, she placed her flower bottle beside his while he slept. It was her way of saying thank you. Days passed. Ina's plant began to sprout. A small green leaf pushed through the soil. She clapped her hands softly when she saw it. She showed Tamil, and he smiled. Tamil took her to the station garden one afternoon. It was a small place with old machines that grew vegetables for the officers. Regular workers were not allowed. But Tamil had fixed the irrigation pipes once and made friends with the guard. This is where life grows, he told Ina. She walked slowly through the garden. She touched the leaves and looked at the roots. My people had floating gardens, she said. We grew food in the air. Tamil was surprised. In the air? Yes, Ina said. The roots hung down and caught water from the clouds. Tamil listened with interest. Can you draw? Ina took a small piece of metal and scratched a shape on it. Tamil saw the design. It was simple but smart. He kept the drawing. Maybe we can build one here, he said. Ina's eyes lit up. At night, Tamil worked on a model based on her drawing. She helped him adjust it. She pointed at the parts that were wrong and corrected him. She didn't just clean, she thought. She created. She was no longer just a shadow in the room. She was part of it. One morning, Tamil woke up coughing. The room was filled with smoke. A fire had started in one of the lower chambers. The alarms blared. Lights flashed. Red. He jumped out of bed and grabbed his jacket. Ina, he called. She was already awake, packing the important things in a bag. She handed him a mask. He put it on. They moved quickly through the hallway. The air was thick. Some workers panicked. Others ran without helping anyone. Ina stayed calm. She pulled a lost child from a corner and gave him her own mask. Tamil helped her. Together, they guided 5 people to the safe zone. When they reached the clean air area, the officers checked names. You're just a worker, one of them said to Ina. You shouldn't have been in there. She saved lives, Tamil said. The officer said nothing. He looked away and walked off. Ina sat on the ground, tired. Tamil gave her water. She looked at him and said, You didn't have to stand up for me. Tamil shook his head. You are not less than me. You deserve respect. Ina looked at the people around them. No one else said anything, but some had seen what she did. They watched her with new eyes. Later that night, back in the room, Tamil repaired a damaged wire while Ina cleaned the floor. You were brave today, he said. Ina looked at her growing plant. So were you? They both smiled. The flowering. Her bottle opened its first petal, and something new began to bloom between them. Tamil came back from the storage deck late. His arms were sore from lifting heavy panels, and his back ached from the long shift. He opened the door to his room and found the lights dimmed. Ina was sitting near the window, holding her flower, bottle close to her chest. She didn't look up when he entered. Her hands were shaking slightly. Her shoulders were tense. Tamil placed his bag down and stepped closer. Ina, he said softly. Is everything all right? She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on the stars outside. Her breathing was deep, but quiet. Tamil sat down beside her, but didn't say anything more. He waited. A long silence passed. Then Ina spoke, her voice low and distant. I had a dream, she said. Tamil turned toward her. I saw my home, she continued. Before the war, it was full of light and color. Our houses floated on air. We had music in the wind. We did not fight. We shared knowledge and taught children. My mother used to sing while planting flowers. I can still hear her voice when I close my eyes. Tamil listened without a word. Ina's hands gripped the bottle tighter. But in the dream, the sky turned dark. The stars disappeared. Then came the ships, human ships. They fell like fire from the sky. We had no weapons. We tried to speak. We sent signals of peace. But no one answered. They landed and took everything. Her voice broke, but she kept speaking. I was taken with others. I was only 12. They called us workers. They said we were lucky to be alive. They gave us numbers. They told us to forget our names, so I forgot for years. I lived with no name, just silence. Tamil placed his hand gently near hers. She looked at it but didn't move. I tried to survive, she said. I didn't talk. I didn't fight. I just worked until I came here, until I met you. Tamil looked into her eyes. I'm sorry, he said. What happened to you was wrong. Ina finally relaxed her grip. She placed the flower bottle back on the shelf. Then she turned to him. Why are you different? Tamil thought for a moment. Because I see a person when I look at you. Not a tool. Not a worker. Just Ina. She blinked slowly. That's the first time someone said my name like that in years. From that night, Ina began to talk more. She told Tamil about her people's traditions, the way they believed in balance between nature and machines. She told him about the sky gardens and the wind towers. Tamil listened with wonder. He had never heard of such things. He showed her more human tech. He gave her old devices to take apart. Ina was quick to learn. She fixed a broken light board in 5 minutes. She improved one of Tamil's tools by adding a cooling wire. He watched her with growing respect. One morning, while working in the service bay, Tamil was called to the supervisor's office. Inside, the officer looked serious. "We received a report," the officer said. "Someone saw you eating meals with your Zen cleaner. They said she speaks freely and uses tools." Tamil nodded. "Yes, sir, that's true." The officer narrowed his eyes. "Do you understand that this goes against the normal conduct for worker-assigned Zen units?" "She's not a unit," Tamil said. "She's a person. Her name is Ina." The officer slammed a file on the table. "They are not citizens. You were given her as a reward, not a companion. If this continues, you may lose your work slot." Tamil stood straight. "Then take the slot. But I won't treat her like a machine." The officer stared at him in silence. "You have one warning. After that, she will be reassigned." Tamil left the office with a heavy heart. That evening, he told Ina about it. She didn't cry. She didn't show fear. But her hands tightened again. "I won't let them take you," Tamil said. "If I have to leave the station, I will." Ina looked at him and whispered, "You don't have to leave for me." "I'm not doing this because I have to," he replied. "I'm doing it because I want to." That night, a strange thing happened. Ina picked up a small recorder and sang. It was a soft song, slow and full of memory. The words were in her language. Tamil didn't understand the meaning, but the sound touched him deeply. It was the kind of song that felt like light on water or wind through trees. "Was that your mother's song?" he asked. Ina nodded. "She sang it to me every night, until the sky burned." Tamil placed his hand over his chest. "It's beautiful." Ina looked at him with soft eyes. "You remind me of her. Not her face, but her heart." From then on, Ina wrote down her memories. She drew pictures of her old world. Tamil helped her create a wall of sketches and designs. Their room turned into a place of stories. When others came by and saw it, some mocked them, but one or two stopped to ask questions. They looked at Ina's drawings and said they were interesting. A young mechanic named Bren even asked her to help fix a cooling grid. Slowly, word began to spread. Ina was not just a cleaner. She was a builder, a thinker. One day, a child came running to their room with a broken toy. Ina sat with him and fixed it. The child hugged her and ran off. His parents stood nearby, unsure how to react. Tamil stood beside her. "You changed something today," he said. Ina looked at the flower on the shelf. It now had to full blooms. "Maybe the seed was always there," she said. "It just needed light." Tamil nodded. "And you brought that light back." They stood together, side by side, looking at the small garden of hope they had built. It had started with silence, then kindness, then voice. Now it was growing into something no one could stop. The colony station buzzed with tension. A high officer from Earth was coming for inspection. His name was Commander Vale. People said he was strict, cold, and had no care for anything except rules. He had visited many stations before and shut down several. Everyone cleaned their workspaces, checked their uniforms, and stayed quiet. Tamil wasn't nervous. He kept doing what he always did. He fixed broken panels, helped other workers, and spent time with Ina. But this time, he told her to be careful. "Ina," he said, "the officer might visit our section. He may not like what he sees." Ina looked calm. "You want me to hide?" "No," Tamil said. "I just want you to be ready. They may try to move you." She nodded and returned to her work. That evening, she cooked a small meal, cleaned the room, and added a new drawing to their wall. It showed the flower garden she remembered from her home world. She gave the drawing to Tamil. He placed it near his bed. The next day, the inspection began. Commander Vale walked through the main quarters with 2 guards beside him. He asked sharp questions. He checked machines. He asked workers about rules. Most people answered with fear in their voice. Then he came to Tamil's section. Tamil stood straight near his workbench. Ina was sitting near the table, helping sort tools. She wore clean clothes, her hair tied back. She looked more like a student than a cleaner. The officer stopped at the doorway. His eyes narrowed. You, he said to Tommel. You're the one who received the Zen worker last quarter, yes, sir, Tommel said without fear. Commander Vale stepped into the room and looked around. He saw the 2 flower bottles on the shelf. He saw the wall covered with drawings and designs. He picked up a metal piece with sketches of floating gardens. What is this Ina's design? Tommel replied, She's helping me with water systems. Commander Vale turned to Ina. Did you make this? Ina stood slowly. Yes, sir. Who gave you permission to use tools? I did, Tommel said. The commander's voice turned cold. That is against standard rules. Zen workers are not allowed to handle equipment. Tommel spoke clearly. Sir, with respect, she has saved energy and improved systems in this section. We have reports to show that. The officer stepped closer to Ina. You speak well. Ina didn't look down. She held her hand steady. I learned from Tommel. Commander Vale turned back to Tommel. You trained her like a partner. I treated her like a person. Tommel said. The guard stiffened, but the officer raised his hand. I see. Then both of you will be called to a hearing tomorrow. This behavior needs to be reviewed. The officer left without another word. That night, Tommel sat quietly on his bed. Ina placed 2 cups of warm tea on the table. She sat beside him. They may send me away, she said. Tommel nodded. I know. They may punish you too. I'm not afraid, he said. I only did what felt right. Ina looked at the drawing wall. If I go, keep these safe. I won't let them take you, Tommel said. We'll speak the truth. That's all we can do. The next morning, they were called to the central hall. Officers and workers sat in silence. Commander Vale stood at the front. He spoke with a hard voice. We are here to question the conduct of worker Tommel and his assigned Zen, Ina. Evidence shows this worker has allowed a non-human to use station tools, live as an equal, and learn restricted knowledge. This is against the standard order. Tommel stood up. May I speak? The commander nodded. Tommel stepped forward. I did what I did because Ina is not just a cleaner. She is skilled. She is kind. She has saved lives. She improved machines. She helped people. She's not a tool. She's a person, and she deserves respect. A few workers in the back nodded. Commander Vale frowned. And you, Ina, do you wish to speak? Ina walked forward. Her steps were calm. I was given to Tommel as a reward, but he gave me a name. He gave me a voice. I do not want to go back to silence. I only want to work, grow, and live with peace. There was silence in the hall. One of the junior officers whispered something to the commander. He stepped back and listened. Then he looked up again. It has come to our attention, he said, that this Zen's designs have improved station. Water flow by 17%. Her fire response during the storage fire saved 5 lives. These facts cannot be ignored. More whispers moved through the crowd. Commander Vale paused. Then he spoke slowly. This case will not be closed today, but for now, the Zen will remain in this section under watch. Tommel's actions are not cleared, but will not be punished at this time. Tommel and Ina returned to their room. The others stayed quiet for a while. Then a young mechanic knocked on the door. I heard what you said, he said to Tommel. If you ever need help, I'm with you. Another worker came after him. Then another. Not many, but enough to show something had begun. Ina sat near her growing flower. It now had 3 full petals. She placed her hand near it. You didn't give up, Tommel said. Neither did you, she replied. They didn't know what would come next, but they knew this. Their voices had been heard, and in the silence that followed, a quiet change had started to grow. The sky outside the colony station turned red. It was not natural. A strong solar flare had burst from the nearby star and sent waves of charged energy toward the station. Inside, alarms rang. Lights flickered. Systems failed one by one. Tommel stood in the docking bay when the warning came through the loudspeakers. Solar storm detected. Shield failure in Sector C. All units report to emergency posts. He dropped his tools and ran. The storm had not been expected. The outer shield panels were already weak. If they failed completely, The station could lose oxygen and power in many areas. As he reached the control hall, he saw officers rushing, shouting orders, and technicians trying to restart failed systems. But most of the tech they were using was still old or already broken. Tommel turned to the screen. Sector C was turning dark. The outer panels had been hit first. 2 life support rooms were down. Panic started to rise. He grabbed a headset and tried to call the backup power team. No answer. He ran to the living quarters. Smoke filled part of the hallway. Lights blinked red. When he reached his room, he found Ina waiting near the door. "I was coming to find you," she said. "The panels are failing," Tommel told her. "The lower corridors might lose air." Ina nodded. "We can fix the shield relays from the inside." Tommel blinked. "You know how to do that." "Yes," she said. "I studied your power systems and compared them with my people's designs. I can reroute the energy. But I need your help." Tommel grabbed his tool bag. "Tell me what to do." They moved fast through the smoke-filled corridors. Other workers were already escaping to the safe zones. A few stopped and asked where they were going. "To fix the relay lines," Tommel said. "If we don't, we lose half the station." Most shook their heads and kept moving. But one young worker, Bren, joined them. "I'll come too," he said together. They climbed into the tight maintenance shaft that led to the shield control panel. The heat inside was rising. The smell of burning wires filled the air. Sparks flew from broken cables. Ina pointed. "Tommel, take that panel off. Bren, bring the fuse core. I will adjust the power links." Tommel followed her words. His hands moved fast. Sweat covered his face. Bren passed him tools without speaking. Ina worked like someone born to lead. She didn't shake. She didn't stop. As she adjusted the last link, the lights blinked back to life. The control screen turned green. The system showed power returning to Sector C. Tommel laughed with relief. "You did it," Ina smiled. "We did it." Suddenly, a second flare wave hit the station. The shaft shook. A support bar snapped. A heavy beam fell toward Bren. Ina jumped and pulled him out of the way. The beam crashed beside her. Smoke rose. "Again, Ina," Tommel shouted, running to her. She was lying on the floor, her arm scraped and leg pinned. "I'm fine," she said. "Help me up." Tommel lifted the beam with Bren's help. They pulled her out. She stood slowly, wincing in pain. "We need to get out now," she said. They moved together, step by step, back to the safe zone. Inside the main hall, many people had gathered. Officers were checking names and systems. When Tommel, Ina, and Bren entered, several people ran to them. "You fixed the relay. How did you do it? Were you in the shaft?" Commander Vale stepped through the crowd. He looked at Ina. "You saved the station," he said. Ina didn't answer. She sat down and held her leg. "She didn't do it alone," Tommel said. "But she led us. She knew what to do when no one else did." Commander Vale looked around at the people watching. Some were whispering. Others nodded. "She is not just a servant," Tommel said. "She is one of us." For the first time, the commander said nothing. Later that evening, the station settled again. Emergency systems were running. Life support was stable. People started talking in small groups. They spoke about the Zen girl who had saved them. They spoke about how she didn't run, how she stayed and fought to protect them. Bren gave a report to the officers. He said that without Ina's plan, they would have lost more than just a few panels. He called her brave. He called her brilliant. The next day, Tommel and Ina sat outside the service wing. Her leg was wrapped in bandage. She rested against the wall, watching the stars through the station glass. "You could have died." Tommel said. "I wanted to help," Ina replied. "If I had done nothing, I would not feel alive." Tommel looked at her. "People are talking about you. They saw what you did. They see you differently now." Ina nodded. "But it won't last unless we keep walking forward." He placed a hand on the flower bottle near them. It had 5 petals now. It stood strong, even after the power cut. "I think the flower understands you," Tommel said. Ina smiled. "Maybe it feels safe here." A soft knock came at their door. It was a group of junior workers. They had tools and parts in their hands. We want to build what Ina drew, one of them said. The floating garden? Can we help? Ina looked at Tamil. He nodded. Double quotes, yes, she said. Let's build something new. And so they began. Not with orders, not with force, but with hands working together, hearts filled with purpose, and hope planted deep. The station was changing. Tamil felt it in the way people looked at Ina. It was no longer with fear or dislike. Instead, many saw her with respect and curiosity. She was no longer just the cleaner. She was a teacher, a builder, and a friend. The floating garden project was growing. Workers from many sections came to help. They gathered parts, cleaned old pipes, and repaired water tanks. Ina led the work with a quiet confidence that inspired others. One day, the colony council called Tamil and Ina to the main hall. The room was filled with council members and officers. Everyone was watching. A tall woman stepped forward. Her uniform was neat, and her voice was clear. "We have seen your work," she said to Ina. "Your designs have improved the water system and made the station safer. We thank you." Ina nodded, her hands folded. The woman continued. "The council has voted to give Zen workers more rights. They will be allowed to train, learn, and choose their roles." There was a murmur in the room. Some people whispered in surprise. Others smiled. Tamil looked at Ina. She smiled back, but her eyes held a mix of hope and worry. After the meeting, a reporter came to their room. She wanted to hear their story. Tamil spoke first. "It started with kindness. I treated Ina like a person, not a tool. I listened to her and learned from her. She taught me more than I taught her." Ina took his hand. "We are more than what others see. We want to live with respect and dignity." The reporter nodded. "Your story will reach many." Days turned to weeks. More Zen workers began asking questions. They learned human language and skills. Some started small projects of their own. Ina and Tamil worked together every day. They taught others, fixed machines, and built new things. The floating garden was nearly complete. It was a beautiful structure of pipes and plants, with flowers hanging in the air like stars. One evening, Tamil found Ina sitting by the garden, her hands in the soil. "Do you think we will ever return home?" she asked quietly. Tamil shook his head. "Maybe not, but we can make this place home." Ina smiled. "You made me believe in hope again." Tamil looked at the stars outside the window. "We will keep building, one step at a time." But not everyone agreed with the new changes. Some officers whispered in corners. They said the Zen should stay workers. They warned of trouble if humans gave up control. One night, Tamil heard voices outside his door. He opened it slowly. Two officers were talking. "If this continues, the station will fall apart. The Zen must be kept in line," one said. "Tamil, step forward. They are not enemies. They are friends." The officers looked at him with cold eyes and left. The next day, Tamil and Ina met with a group of workers. They planned to present their progress to the colony council. They wanted more support for the Zen and their projects. Ina spoke with confidence. "We want to build a better future together." Tamil nodded. "Not as masters and servants, but as equals." The council listened. Some members asked questions, others showed concern, but many were curious and hopeful. At the end of the meeting, the council agreed to create a new program for Zen education and work training. Ina was named a council advisor. She smiled shyly but accepted the honor. Tamil stood beside her, proud and happy. Their journey had not been easy. They had faced fear, rules, and silence, but they had chosen kindness and courage. The flower in the bottle now had 6 bright petals. It stood tall beside their new home, and the station was no longer just a place of work. It was a place of life, of hope, and of a new light. The colony station was brighter now, not just because of new lights or repaired systems, but because something had changed deep inside its walls. The people felt it. The air was lighter. The hope was stronger. Tamil stood on the platform overlooking the floating garden. It was full of green leaves and colorful flowers. Some parts floated on thin metal wires, others hung in baskets with water dripping slowly. The soft hum of the water system made the whole place feel calm. Ina stood beside him. Her arm was healed. Her face was calm and happy. She looked at the garden with pride. "Look at what we made," she said. Tamil smiled. "We made it together." Workers passed below, smiling and talking quietly. Some stopped to admire the garden. Children played nearby. It was a place where humans and Zen worked side by side. The Colony Council had given more rights to the Zen. They were no longer just cleaners or tools. They could learn, create, and choose their own paths. Ina had become a leader. She helped teach other Zen workers. She spoke at meetings. She was a symbol of change. Tom will remember the day he first met her. She had been silent and scared. Now she was strong and full of life. One morning, a new message came from Earth. The governor sent a team to visit the station. They wanted to see the progress and decide the future of the colony. Tamil and Ina prepared for the visit. They cleaned the rooms and polished the garden. They made sure everything was perfect. When the governor arrived, she was serious but curious. She listened to Ina's speech about the new programs and the cooperation between humans and Zen. The governor asked questions. She wanted to know if the station was safe. She wanted to know if the Zen were happy. Ina spoke clearly. "We are building a future where everyone has a voice, where respect and kindness guide us." The governor smiled slightly. "This is a new way. It is good to see." After the meeting, the governor offered Ina a chance to visit Earth, to speak at the United Council and share her story. Ina looked at Tamil. "Should I go?" He nodded. "Your voice can reach many. You can help change the whole galaxy." Ina packed her things. Before leaving, she and Tamil stood by the garden one last time. "Thank you," she said softly, "for seeing me, for believing." Tamil took her hand. "You showed me what it means to care." They hugged. It was a quiet promise to meet again. Ina left with the governor. Tamil stayed behind to keep working, to keep building. The floating garden grew bigger. More plants bloomed. More workers joined the project. Tamil began teaching others the skills Ina had taught him. The station was no longer divided. It was united. Months passed. Then one day, a message arrived. Ina had spoken at the United Council. Her words were heard by many worlds. She talked about hope, respect, and the power of kindness. The galaxy began to change. Back on the station, Tamil looked at the flower in Ina's bottle. It had grown tall with many petals. It was no longer just a flower. It was a symbol of what could happen when someone saw a person, not a cleaner. When someone gave a name, a voice, and a chance. Tamil smiled. The future was theirs to build together.